Now, thank you again for being here today, this afternoon with me. We are now with Montse Salvany, who is the Vice President of Human Resources at T-Systems North America, with such an excellent awareness of the international human resources community and her ability in listening, supporting, and understanding people. Montse has a large and successful career in human resources, providing perspective to the digital scope. Due to her talent directing people, in 2019, Montse was nominated for the 2019 Digital Female Leadership Award for the IT Tech category offered by Global Digital Women. The IT Tech category focuses on changing the way people work in all industries, making stories and career paths of women visible, and bringing diverse teams together to change the tech world. Montse has more than 20 years of human resources expertise. At present, she manages nearly 400 employees and a team of 6 human resources members at T-Systems International. Hello, Montse. Thank you a lot for being here today with us as a speaker of the International FemHack. I pass you the mic. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for organizing it and for having me here today. I'm a bit scared. When you said 20 years, it made me feel older. So now you'll see a presentation that literally says 15 years, but it's probably closer to 20. I'm just going to share the presentation now, guys, if that's okay with you. And it's going to be in a second.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So who am I after this super nice introduction, which I'm not even sure if I deserve. I'm originally from Barcelona. People here in the US call me Montse or Mon. I've been here now for 8 years. And as Noah said, I'm the VP of HR for T-Systems North America. And I've been working in the IT world, again, for more than 15 years or 20 years. But I'm definitely a passionate when it comes to HR. And what I want to share today, and we're going to talk about that confidence gap. I want to share with you first, when was my wake-up call on that topic? And my wake-up call was literally around 10 years ago, when my manager and the head of social partner had a meeting with our trade unions. And they had a meeting normally like at 6 p.m. So I decided to go out for dinner. And then I said, you know what, around 9 or 10, I will go back to the office. It was 2 of us being the HR business partners. And in that particular case, I came back to the office. It was around 9:30. I will never forget that day because it was raining. And I sat there waiting for them to come back. When they came back to the office, I was there totally dark. I was the only individual in the office. And they literally said, yeah, let's go into the meeting and let's call the other business partner. Montse will see you tomorrow. And that literally happened that way. So I was puzzled and I didn't know how to react at that moment. It really, I came back home and I probably ended up crying at one point, like, what am I doing? Like, I've been going out, coming back to the office. What am I doing that? And how am I reacting? So this is what I want to share with you all today. And I call it the confidence gap. And really what the confidence gap is that dark spot and that force that is often holding us back when we want to speak up, when we want to say something. And again, I'm talking average, and I'll show you by numbers later on. But it's that moment or that feeling when we keep our heads down, when we tell ourselves, well, I'm not sure if I'm the right person, and I'm not sure if I'm good enough, and I'm not sure if I deserve that promotion. So all those doubts that we have in our head, which are backed up by scientific research as to where are they coming from. And here you can see in the presentation a very nice quote from Sheryl Sandberg in her book, Lean In. And she literally said that she wasn't sure. So she said, there are still days I wake up feeling like a fraud, not sure I should be where I am. And what I'm trying to share here is that it doesn't matter how old are you? It doesn't matter your experience. It doesn't matter your salary. None of that matters. And it's still there. It's that force holding us back. How do I back up that with numbers? And here you see, and some of the numbers, please my apologies because they are US based. Women, we are 47% of the workforce. When it comes to undergraduate degrees, 57% of women finishing undergraduate degrees, 59% of master's degrees. And I didn't have the PhD numbers, but they were also higher. And the GPA, which is the average score in female, is higher than men. And considering all those facts, which shows that we are competent as anyone else is, we are still, when it comes to salaries, we're still earning 79% for every dollar a man earns. And looking at senior positions, and again, I'm not talking a board of management, senior positions, 24% worldwide are held by women. And there are so many studies, and you'll see that everywhere. And in particular, Goldman Sachs and Columbia University, they had a very specific study, and they literally said that companies employing women in large numbers outperform their competitors when it comes to profitability. And I want to take that in a very particular way, because it's not necessarily about employing women, it's about creating that environment that brings that diversity into the workplace. So having said that, it's like, how can that happen? I mean, what's wrong? What are we doing that is not what we should be doing? What's behind it? Let me show you even more numbers, and maybe that resonates with some of you as well. So when we negotiate in a standard work environment, our starting point tends to be 30% less than a man going for the same position in that negotiation process, 30% less. And there was another study, and you'll see in the notes here where the study is coming from. It's a Manchester Business School. Through all the graduate students that were looking for a job, they asked all the students how much did they think they deserved. And when you put the numbers and compare men and women, men showed 20% more than women. So a woman or a man may have said, we deserve 100,000, and women said, I deserve 80,000. So how can that happen, or what are we missing here to position us in the right level? And also, you probably may have heard that, and if you haven't, here it is. There's a study from HP, and they were studying when people applied for roles. And what they realized is that women, when we apply for roles, we have the feeling that we have to be 100% of the whole profile, of the whole job descriptions, 100%. Whilst men, they are good with a 60%. So when they say 60%, they're like, yeah, I'll fit in, I'll learn the rest. So it's simply a different mentality and on how our brain thinks and how our brains really work. And I can share even a more specific example that happened to me, and it was a couple of months ago. One of my colleagues, who is a talent in Deutsche Telekom, and in T-Systems, obviously, when you become a talent, you apply to be a talent, and you have to go through a series of assessments. So she did a series of assessments. Assessments, I can tell you because I've done them, they are not that easy. And she got a couple of 2 out of 5. There are probably around 10 different scores, and she got 2 of them, only 2 of them that were a 2 out of 5. The other ones were amongst the 4s and the 3s. So she called me and she was concerned. She said, Montse, I'm not sure if I want to apply for it. And I look at it, I'm like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Those results are good. And I even called the central team and I said, like, hey, she's concerned. She's not sure if she should apply or not. And the central team told me, she's not average. She's above average. So she should definitely apply. This is the type of talent that we want to have. So I had a call with her and said, hey, those are good results. And I tried to motivate as much as I could and as much as I knew how to. And it took her a week to call me back and say, okay, I'm applying. And she applied. Now, same situation, literally a month after, with one of my colleagues, a male colleague. And he called me and we were literally having a laugh. And he said, oh my God, I did the assessments, Montse. And you know what? I ended up with some ones. And I was like, oh, that's not that good. What happened there? How do you feel about it? So we started having that conversation, and obviously at the end I said, so are you going to proceed? Are you going to still go ahead and apply to be a talent? And he looked at me and he gave me a face. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, do you want to go ahead or do you want to stop the process here? And he said, no, I have already applied. So those difference and those challenges happen on a day-to-day basis. And the fact that he didn't even thought about withdrawing, he went forward and she has been thinking about it for 1 week. This is the difference. Now, the last numbers that I'm bringing to you here, the latest numbers, is a study from the Cornell together with Washington State University. Now, they had a very interesting study with the students, and they had a quiz on scientific reasoning. Now, before taking the quiz, they asked all of them, am I good in science? So women and men, they had to give themselves a score from 0 to 10, being 10 the maximum. Am I good in science? Then after taking the quiz, the question was, how did the quiz go? How do you feel at the end? And then before knowing their performance, they had another question, which was, do you want to participate on a science competition for prizes? Now, at the end, I'm going to share as well what was the performance, and you'll see that in a second how it was. So on the, am I good in science? Women positioned themselves on a 6.5 out of 10, and men on a 7.6. How did the quiz go? You see, women positioned on a 5.8 and men on a 7.1. And what really gets me and what really pushes us down, without knowing the score, so not knowing how well or how bad we perform, when we were told, do you want to participate on a science competition for prizes, only 49% put them forward. So literally, we have missed 50% of the other women. We are not even starting to run. We are stepping out already without knowing. And you'll see at the end how was the overall performance, which was literally, it's very close, but in fairness, it was 0.4 lower in females compared to males. But this is what we're telling ourselves. So starting with how good I am, I'm not good enough. How did it go? Oh my God, it went terrible. Do you want to compete? Oh, poof, no, definitely not. So those things are really pushing us down. And if we think about, or if we go back to the first slide that I shared with you, hey, we have it. So what is stopping us back? What's that force that is stopping us back and putting us in that dark spot? So I'll quick summary here, and I would love to hear your comments. I believe you have a space for comments and questions. I would love to go through that because I think that's where the flesh comes in. So in summary, what really happens and the outcome of all the studies is that women tend to overthink. And when we tend to overthink, we create more self-doubts and more self-doubts and more self-doubts. And doubt creates addiction. The more we doubt, the more addiction we have to doubt, and the more we doubt again. We tend to underestimate ourselves more than men in general. So we tend to position ourselves already as I'm going to be the number 2, which is very interesting too. Now, our confidence increases when we feel that we are perfect. And again, we can talk about where is that coming from. It's socially coming from. I can share with you that girls at school, we are being praised for doing a good job. And men tend to be punished at least 8 times more than we are. So the resilience and the ability to let things go is way higher in men than women. And it starts from very early ages. Now, the way that those doubts stop us compared to men, it's completely different. As I said, my colleague thinking about it for a week, And my other colleague, the male colleague, not even thinking about it. I'm like, what do you mean? Of course, I went for it and I sent it right after. So it's really stopping us. It's that force that it's stopping us. And often as well, women tend to credit circumstances or other people for our success, and that happens as well to me. Sometimes I tell my dad, "Well, I'm here in the U.S., so I was lucky," and he keeps on telling me, "No, you were not lucky, Montse. You have been working through it. You're able to communicate in English, and many people your age is not able to." So those are the things that we kind of tend to say, "Yeah, I was lucky to be there." No, no, no. You work through that, and acknowledging it is probably the key. So I think that the key line here should be more the perfectionism and the need to be perfect is really a confidence killer to us. And even more, what has been proven by all those studies is that confidence matters as much as competence. So you don't really need to be the top one at school. You have to show and you have to have the confidence levels that get you to the same position when it comes to applying for a job or going for a PhD or whatever it is that you want to do. So those are interesting numbers, and I'm not expecting to be here to kind of pull you down into those numbers or get you depressed with it, because really it's in our hands to make the difference. And when we're talking confidence, and I always say that confidence in the end, it turns into action. And the action that allows those women to say, okay, I'm going for that prize. Of course I'm going for that prize. Why not? And at the end of the day, the low confidence leads us to inaction and is what is pushing us down and not allowing to show the best of ourselves. So what can we do with it? And I always go back to that sentence, it's not you, it's me, because it's definitely me. It's me as a woman that I need to drive that. It's me when I look back at that person who had that situation at work and was told, Montse, we'll see you tomorrow, instead of speaking up and saying, no, I'm not going home. I'm gonna be here. I want to know what happened in the meeting and I'm gonna be part of that meeting. This is what we need to work on. And there are certain things that we can control and we can influence. Probably you've seen that many times with Simon Sinek, the circle of influence and control. And what I would ask and I would urge you to do is to focus on what you can control, because there are many things that you can control. There are many things that you can influence. So you can influence, in case you have kids tomorrow, how you educate your kids, obviously. But there are things that you can control today and now. So what are those things in my eyes and in my view? So the first one is try. Don't give up. If there's a prize, there's a competition, there is something, get on with it. I mean, you're here today in that super FemHack. So go for it, try. Don't allow that force to drive you, but allow yourself to drive yourself. And when you have tried, keep on trying. So really don't give up. Stay on top and keep on trying. Being aware is also so important, because we often confuse confidence as I have to be the top and I acknowledge that I am the top. No, I am not there yet, but I am aware on where I am. So I'm able to have that conversation with myself and tell myself, I know where I am. Yes, it's not excellence. I'll get there if I have to, but I know exactly where I am. And very close together with that self-awareness and knowing ourselves very well, it comes self-compassion. And this is a term that I have been working on the last 2 years because of the pandemic. Because probably as many of you, I felt terrible. I felt I was not good at my job. I was not good at home. I was not good as a family member. I was terrible at everything. And it kind of, that doubt and that kind of, it got me. It got under my skin, and it really got the worst out of me. But when I developed and I focus on self-awareness, I learned that self-compassion terminology, as in I'm often trying to talk myself the same way my best friend will talk to me. So if I make a mistake, if I'm failing on something, instead of digging into that fail, my best friend she would probably tell me, Montse is all right. Don't worry. Those things happen. Get on with it. So I encourage you as well to shift that vision a little bit. And self-compassion doesn't mean that you lower your expectations. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that you're aware and you're somehow nice to yourself when you have that awareness. And that brings confidence. And it really brings that confidence to the next level. Now, the next one is about minding your body language. And that's probably more in the business environment, obviously, but body language is important. And I'll give you a very clear example. If I talk to you like that, compared to talking to you like that, it makes a difference. So just be aware on how do you position your shoulders, be aware on how do you position your chin. When you position it down, you're talking down. And when you're positioning it up, you're talking upwards. So that shows more confidence to your audience as well. Then prepare and practice. I mean, we're all different, and I'm a big fan of improvisation. I'm not the type of individual that prepares very well, to be honest. But some people need that. So if you need to prepare and practice in front of the mirror, don't be afraid and do that. This is what the mirror is for. So make sure that you make use of all the tools that you have in your hands. The next one is avoiding judgment. And where is that coming from? So we do have to be very careful when it comes to judgment, because we often tend to look at others, and our brain automatically sets an idea or presets an idea. So you say, oh, no, why is she wearing high heels? Why is she wearing makeup? You know what? The way the brain works, it literally encourages the same areas of your brain. When you judge someone else, you tend to judge yourself more. So if you let those judgments go, and I know it's not easy, because they are there, and the stereotypes are there as well. So when we force ourselves to avoid those judgments, it really makes a difference as well to ourselves, because our ability to judge ourselves simply lowers them. And last but not least here, it's about searching for allies and becoming an ally for other women. And I talk in particularly women, but I will never exclude men from that, because there are men who are excellent allies on helping us bring this confidence up to a different level. Now, why working on that network? Why having those allies? Well, you can use women to give you constructive feedback. You can use someone that you don't know to pitch your idea, or to present your idea, or to show what you can do or what you cannot do. So having and being clever on searching those allies and surrounding yourself with those people that lift you up and that allow this confidence gap down is really a key asset. And I can only encourage you to work on that, and to really explore that in any way. And I will never disregard some of the allies that I met. I've met people on the plane, super interesting people on the plane, obviously at the airport, and sometimes I met people at the bar. And I would never disregard the potential of an ally, either men or women. So again, here are my tips and my recommendations, and probably one of the things that you can work on straight away is your body language. So I definitely encourage you and suggest you to be aware of your own body language and record yourself if necessary, and see how you come across, and then you'll take it from there and see what you want to adapt and what you want to change. Now, all that is, and I know some of you are not European, so all that really works in a European environment. Now, we also have to be mindful that some other cultures are different. So if we go, for example, to Asian cultures, or we have someone in our team who is coming from an Asian background, we need to be mindful, and we need to understand that probably those women are less likely to speak up, or even the tone of voice is not going to be that high. So just be mindful when you are in a global and international environment, because this is a fact as well. And I think I'm good with that. And I will encourage again that when you see yourself at the mirror, don't see the cat and see the lion, as you can see in that picture here. And I would love to hear if there are any questions in the audience, or any comments as well. And if that's okay, Noelia, I will stop sharing, which I believe
Yeah,
I did.
sure. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. And yes, indeed, we have some questions. So I will read the questions from the public, and then I will let you answer. The first question is, how do you recommend us to assess the proper salary as a woman?
That's a very good question. And you know what? There is not a black and white answer, but there are lots of tools online where you can search. Now, what do I do? And I can share my own experience. So in the US, there's a website called salary.com. And I go and search for the salary, and I always position myself on a top percentile. So there are different percentiles set up, and I always position myself on the top. Now, in my mind, I know what I want to get, but I always position myself to the top because then you have room for negotiation.
Yeah, okay.
If you position yourself at a different level, then you're done. So use the tools available online would be my first suggestion. Glassdoor, I believe they do that as well, and they are international too.
Okay, thank you for that advice. You have talked about overthinking and underestimation
Yeah.
from women. Do you think that this is innate or that has been acquired due to society?
I think a lot of it has been acquired. So I didn't share all the studies behind it because I really didn't want to bore you. But for example, one of the key studies as well was how boys tend to enter competitions earlier than women. And that comes to athletes. And this is changing, thank God. And you can see top female and top women getting the Ballon d'Or and all those things. So the fact that they enter competition when they are maybe 5 or 6 year old, and they are being told many times, you're not doing that well, you're not doing that well, you're not doing that well, come on, more, more, more. That basically kind of builds like an extra layer in their skin. And women, we haven't had the chance to do that. And I see that changing. So socially it doesn't, it's important that it changes. Now, the other one as well that is important is what happens at home. So it's not just about the competition, it's what happens at home and what happens at school. At home, and I will never praise my daughters for doing a good job. I will always praise my daughters for the effort. And it's so hard, I can tell you, because you want to tell them, oh, that looks so nice, instead of, oh, I see that you have been putting a lot of effort into it. So you see, there's a lot changing, and there's still a way to go, but it's definitely those generations that are now probably 10 years old and 15, those are the ones that are gonna hopefully make the difference, and parents like me hopefully trying to change how we behave and how we treat our kids.
Thanks. Another question. As HR, have you experienced a change on women's self-confidence in the tech sector through the past years?
Oh, I'm not liking my answer on that. I wish I had experienced that more.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. I think it has. We are getting there. There is more visibility. But still, when I look, for example, at Deutsche Telekom and I look up in HR, which is mainly a career for women, I look up and I only see men.
Yeah.
So there's still a long way to go. And we are not doing enough, and companies are not doing enough, and they constantly question, like, what do we need to do, what do we need to do? Well, stop hiring the person that looks like you. Stop hiring that. Hire diverse, create the environment for diverse. So I've seen a change, but I still think there's still a way to go.
And related to that, to your answer to the previous question, do
Yeah.
you think that something could be done from HR to decrease that confidence gap?
Yes, I think that is something we can do. So it starts with creating internal groups with talents and with female talents, and finding those allies amongst us. So I'm definitely an ally, and that's probably why my colleague called me and said, Montse, I'm not sure what to do. So yeah, I think we have the responsibility to be there, and we do have the responsibility as well to shift the culture of those companies so that they allow for that confidence gap to grow. And definitely, yes, huge responsibility. I'm not sure if we have that much power, or I don't feel I have as much power as I would love to have. But yes, there is, and bringing diversity policies into place and making sure that all the board of directors are engaged with those policies and they mandate it. So having the power to say no, you are no longer going to employ that person. You are going to employ that woman because she is as good as or better than. So we definitely do have a say in there, and I'm personally, I can tell you, I'm fighting on that on a regular basis.
Okay, nice. Is it easier to evaluate soft skills rather than technical skills during HR selection processes?
Oh, I was not expecting that question. If it's easier, I don't think it is. You know, we always say that in recruitment, when we have a good recruiter, she gets it right or he gets it right 60% of the time.
Okay,
So you have to allow for 40% of the failures. I think honestly, the two of them are challenging.
okay,
Technical skills, you may have a good day or you may have a bad day.
yeah,
And soft skills, exactly the same. You may have a good day and a bad day. So I wouldn't call it is it easier. I would say that we have a responsibility to make sure that it is as objective as possible and make sure that we are not biased. So that, for example, when we work with agencies, we are asking them to send us resumes without the names. I don't wanna see the name of the person. I want to know the experience,
yeah.
right? So this is things that we can definitely build on, but I don't think that is any easier or more difficult.
Okay, thanks for that. Do you think that the confidence gap is the same in the US than in Europe?
No, I think it's different. And again, I'm from Barcelona, so if I compare how it is in Spain compared to the US, I think we have a longer way to go in Spain. Definitely a longer way to go, and maybe Europe. It depends on the country as well. There are some countries, and you look at the Nordic countries, for example, they tend to be more confident. Also, they are taller. So I know it may sound funny, but that already makes a difference. The fact that you're taller, you see people kind of getting around you, and they are smaller. So that already allows your confidence. But I think it's a slightly different, and part of it comes through education here. So in the US, something that I experience is that when they are already like 14-year-old, they are presenting in front of 100 people on a weekly basis. They are presenting something, regardless of what it is. And thinking about Spain, probably the first time I did the presentation was at university, and I was completely red and embarrassed and shy, and I had zero skills probably. So I think the US has been working a lot on that, but then that's the surface. So it doesn't mean that they are more confident and more competent, but it brings that confidence. So sometimes you see guest speakers from the US and you're like, oh, wow. And then you dig in and you're like, oh, that's not that good. So I do see the difference, but I'm not sure if it's just the US and Europe. In Europe, I think there are certain countries that are different as well.
Yeah. Just a fun fact, I have all the team that it's behind screens and everybody was like, yeah,
So
yeah. We agree.
it's true, it's true. But it's on us. We can do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would go for it. I mean, do some acting if you feel that you're lacking that. Go on speeches and stand up and raise your hand at school and at college, university. Like, yeah, you know, that moment we're like, I'm not sure, no, just raise it and be comfortable and confident raising it, even if what you say is the most stupid thing ever. It doesn't matter. Just raise your hand.
Yeah. There's another question like, what is your advice to increase your confidence? Like, if you have to say one thing like everybody could or should do.
I'd say the one thing is jump into the pool even if you don't know if there is water in there. So don't spend that time doubting and questioning. Just go for it.
Okay. There's another one it's quite long. I will try to read it as I mean in the best way. Do you have any recommendations on how you can know if you need to improve versus just feeling imposter syndrome? I think a problem some of us has is that we don't want to have a full sense of success, when in reality, we really shouldn't feel so confident, especially when we may be the only representation in our workplace.
That's very interesting. There's an excellent TED talk. I should have prepared the name because that's very much linked to it. And there's an excellent TED talk of a woman talking about faking until you became. And she, it says fake until you make it. And she was talking about the process on that feeling of faking it, which to me was lack of confidence, until she became what she really wanted to. So here, there are two things here. One thing is overconfidence, and the other thing is faking confidence. And overconfidence to me come at the starting point of overconfidence is that awareness onto where you are. And if you say, I don't want to be successful here, the confidence and the overconfidence comes when you're able to say, I don't want to be successful here. And this is my decision. This is why I don't want to be successful here. So overconfidence to me is perfectly okay in that sense. Now, when you're faking confidence and it's not genuine, and people can perceive that it is not really the you talking, and you're saying, "Oh, I'm the best one. I want to get there." Blah blah blah. That's when you don't see the reality and that awareness. So to me, I would focus probably on trying to be overconfident instead of faking that confidence, and starting from being aware as to where you are and where do you want to be.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I answered the question, but if the person that has the question, if I have not answered, just retype something again, because I believe I answered it just in case.
That's closely linked with the other question that we have. It's, do you think is a good mindset in order to feel confident? Think that you are the best doing something, kind of narcissism.
In my experience, no. I would rather be aware and confident with that awareness. So, for example, I work for a German company, and I speak zero words in German. No, not zero. I mean, I can do something, but very basic. And I'm often in meetings, and they ask me, "Do you speak German?" I'm like, "No, I don't speak German. But if I have to be in a meeting where everyone speaks German, I can find my way around it." And this is not saying that this is not faking the reality. So I'm not faking the reality, but I don't mind being in a meeting if everyone speaks German, because if there is a presentation, I kind of get some of the words, take a picture, then I use Google Translate. Now, if everyone wants to have a conversation with me, that's another story, because that's a no. But I would not fake it. I just be aware and build that confidence on that awareness. I don't speak German, so what? I speak four other languages. Which one do you want to pick? You know what I mean? So I would focus on not faking, but getting the best out of what you have.
Okay, thank you. Do you think that the society still perceives the confidence coming from a woman differently than the confidence coming from a man?
Yes, I believe so. I'm totally in agreement with that sentence, and I think part of it is the judgment, and the judgment starting from women as well. And I had that situation as well. I tend not to wear makeup, so I'm not a huge makeup fan, and especially after COVID, is like, yeah, why
Me
would I
too.
wear makeup? Yeah, but I've been in a bathroom with other women when someone offered me, "Do you want some makeup?" And I'm like, "No." So probably she was already judging me as to why are you not showing the best of yourself. So yeah, that word, yeah, she's bossy. I hate that when someone says, "No, she's very bossy." But he is not very bossy. He's very strong and very assertive.
Exactly.
And we have to fight those biases. And from a company perspective, we're certainly fighting them. So in Deutsche Telekom, we have put a lot of efforts and train employees and train managers as to those are biases. Like, people from the south of Spain is lazy. French people don't speak English. Those are biases. This is not the case, and there's a long way to go. Don't get me wrong, but it's true that at the moment is being perceived differently, and I think the confidence also comes in when you state it and when you see the difference. And I have another example. I went to Germany for a meeting, and one of my managers, a man who is very self-aware of women work environments, so very um, yeah, very mindful of that. He came to me and said, "Oh, so who's taking care of your daughters?" And I looked at him and I told him, "How many times have you asked that question to a man?" Like, men would never get that question, and women tend to get that question. Um, and he was so embarrassed, and he told me, "Oh, my apologies." And Montse, I didn't want to, but really, he was not the type of person that will treat. He is not someone that would discriminate someone because of gender, but he literally asked for it in the most genuine way. But no one ever told him you should not be asking that question. So I think we also have a responsibility not to allow that. So when we see a colleague saying she is very bossy, I would say no, it's not that she's very bossy. It's that she knows what she wants or she is very assertive. So we do have a responsibility to feedback other people and give that feedback to others, so that that perception also changes.
Okay, I do agree with you. I have another question. Like, do you think that the tech companies, the tech industry, is really aware of the lack of feminine talent that they have?
Oh yes, definitely yes. Everyone, I mean, we are fighting for it. We are fighting for that female talent or for diverse talent in general. Um, there has not been any town hall in my company when that has not been raised. Maybe it's me raising the question every time. That's another story. But there is always a question on where are the women, and those are facts and figures. So the fact book that we report at the end of every single year, you see the amount of female and the amount of male, and you see the difference. And honestly, a company that is not questioning that, um, probably in 10 years time is going to die. It's the same as sustainability.
Yeah.
If you don't have that in your, not the core values, but your objectives today, in 10 years time, there's not going to be any man and any woman wanting to work for you, just because the values will not fit. So I think it is there, and if it's not there, it's already a failure from my perspective.
Okay. And do you think that the lack of woman leaders or women in top positions is also due to this gap confidence?
I think half of it is. Half of it definitely is, because we are not putting ourselves forward for things. And even if I believe I am confident enough, I am sometimes in that dark spot as well. So I look at um, I look at the job description and I feel like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. Even when you introduced me earlier on, I think I even said, I'm not sure if I deserve that introduction. Hell yes, I deserve that introduction. It was a great introduction. So I already pushed myself down. And it's so unconscious. And I think we are often in that position where that lack of confidence is kind of allowing us and putting us in that corner and feeling confident in that corner. So we have a way to go, definitely. And that's what I want to make this whole confidence gap visible. It is important to me, definitely.
I really agree. You really deserve the introduction, and I will go with the last question.
Yep.
As a society, how can we raise confident girls from your point of view?
That's a very responsible question. Um, well, I honestly think putting measures in place and being aware on what you tell your kids, what you tell the women around you, and even what you tell school, because they spend like 10 hours at school those days. So being involved with what's happening in the school, asking the schools to have female role models in the books and not just male role models, and pushing for any little action, and it's going to take a lot of time, because again, part of it is here, and it's how our brain works, because we tend to overthink. So this is not something we can change. It's not that we can go to the doctor and they are going to fix us. But I think we can set up and we can create some environment that allows for that growth and that confidence. So that's a hard question for me to ask, but I would say start small, but start. And if there's something you can do for your friend, your colleague, your nephews, whoever, your cousins, start with that, and that is what is going to make the difference in 10 years.
Thank you very much. I really like the sentence, start small, but start. I mean, that's a good, I think that's a good sum up. Thank you very much, Montse. That has been a real pleasure. It has been a fulfilling talk. Thank you very much for your time, for your investment, but especially for the job that you are doing and for helping in order to fight against this gap confidence. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon.